Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market, let's go over what's happening and I would argue this is probably a historic day for the stock. So let's go over just my thoughts and really just what the stock is doing and what it potentially can do next. So as usual, if you enjoyed, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. That link is down below. If you're interested, of course, I share my thoughts, posts, etc., updates on Tesla and sometimes other stocks as well every single day. Or for $5, you get access to all of that, plus NVIDIA daily updates as well. But let's get into it. Tesla with an absolutely surreal day, closing up 22% on the day, which is pretty much like almost double what I honestly expected as one of my paths, which we'll go over very briefly, obviously, closing at pretty much $260 per share, which I think we can say is a little bit of an outperformance compared to the market. So very quickly, I want to reiterate, right? So back when we obviously closed yesterday, right? Again, like I said yesterday, you always want to take that technical analysis before an earnings with a grain of salt, sometimes even a pretty large grain of salt, because earnings, especially Tesla earnings, can completely change things around, right? Technical analysis, and I was telling my members this quite literally all day yesterday. It can completely just take technical analysis and pretty much just throw it out the window, at least for a day or two, right? So it's very important to understand, and that's what I try to reiterate, right? Despite it looking bearish, despite this close, yeah, it did look very bearish. It ultimately didn't really matter because at the end of the day, earnings will be the true dictator as to, where we go next. Do we actually go down or do we go up? Or maybe we went just sideways, right? Earnings will always be that ultimate decision, the ultimate reason behind that. So, I said before how my three paths were, just pretty much straight down and then like this pretty much, right? Or we do this, or we pretty much do the bullish version where we actually bounce from here and we go straight up to the upper part of this, wedge that we were forming. I have a lot of lines here, so I'll explain why later. Honestly, I probably can even just delete them for now. I'll delete that one for now, at least. Actually, no, I'll keep it. Essentially, go up to the top of this wedge, and that's like the bullish option. Now, I thought the bullish one will be the least likely. I'll be completely honest. I did not. I did not expect this kind of rally. This is a pretty surreal rally. I thought if we do get a rally, it'd be probably somewhere to around this general area, like mid to low-ish 230s. That's what I thought, at least. Clearly, Tesla had other plans. It is what it is. So my long-term account is very happy. Obviously, I went pretty light on the earnings, but at least I still made money on it. So that's obviously a good sign nonetheless. Now, what does this mean though moving forward? Like what is next? Like, holy shit, this is a crazy day, but okay, cool, it happened. Emotions aside, what's next? What can we expect going forward? So I want to start with the bearish things. Why am I going to start with the bearish things? Because I think the bears need some life assistance here. They need some life support after today. Because if you were short Tesla, especially if you for whatever reason entered yesterday, yeah, you're probably pretty under. Let's be completely honest here. So let me give the bears a little bit of breathing room here for at least something, right? So let's talk about that. So let's talk about the bearish side. So the bearish side is pretty simple. We have this top resistance of this wedge, right? So obviously we have all these lines below where these were all essentially channels that were supporting us, right? The bottom channel, the middle channel, the top channel that we broke out of post robotaxi events. And then we obviously flushed down even lower, came up, retested it, and we actually blasted right through it. And now we're at the top of the channel, right? Very, very top of this, more of a wedge, really. That started back when we were at pretty much 270 back here. We had that recent high back here at around 265. And again, pretty much connect the dots. And what do we have? We have that channel, or rather a wedge, or really resistance level being made. Cool. So why is this important? Well, this is important because it's now going to be acting as a pretty major resistance. Like this right here, this general area, this pretty much low 260s is pretty much that first like true area the bears, if there are any left, really need to step in and defend essentially, if that makes sense, right? This is like the spot for Tesla to reject that. Very important level for it to reject that, because if it doesn't, it can obviously continue higher pretty substantially. So this would be the first level. The second level, of course, is 270. Think of it this way: entering the 260s is like entering the boss room, essentially. Like you're in the boss dungeon, right? The dungeon that leads to the boss, and the final boss itself is at 270. So think of it that way. We're now entering the dungeon of the final boss, with the final boss at 270. So you want to, those are crucial levels for the bulls to break through, really, and the bears to defend. So if there's a place for Tesla to find a rejection, or at least a short-term rejection, but maybe even a longer-term rejection, honestly, this actually would be pretty much roughly where it is. Because the one thing that is weird, and I'm not really sure how to quantify this almost, but the fact that Tesla's up 22% and QQ is only up 0.8% and SPY is only up 0.2% is, you would think they'll be up a little bit more than that with a major mega cap stock like Tesla up 22%. Like, it's a little bit weird. Like, why are they not up more? That I'm not sure though. Like, I don't have an answer. I don't even know why. It's a little weird, just interesting, right? A little eyebrow raising for me. But nonetheless, this is very important, followed by 270. Probably the most two important levels moving forward, right? So you definitely want to watch for those. Now, if there's a place to reject, it's here. So one thing I want to bring up as well is this. I have my bands. I love the bands, right? If you go to the weekly time frame, the bands are really important. And the reason I want to bring this up is because if you go to TSLQ, which is down 44% today, there's something important to note, right? Whenever you look at any major stock, so in this case, TSLQ is just inverse Tesla, really, right? Times 2, I believe. So, whenever you look at any major stock, and you can argue TSLQ is technically a major stock because it's technically just Tesla, really, just flipped. Whenever you go on the weekly time frame and you bring out these bands, most of them, usually when they get, especially to the second oversold territory, they find some bounce. And same with TSLQ. You can see in the history, right? Again, it's not just my opinion. It's not just, my take or whatever. It's just, it's facts. Whenever TSLQ has ever come down essentially to the second yellow line, it's never come down to the third one. But it's gotten close, but it's never come down to the third one. But every time it's come down and been around the second yellow line, you can see it's found a bounce pretty much every single time. And it's pretty much there right now. So this is the interesting part. And this is where I'll be looking at it very closely moving forward for the next, honestly, probably even a couple of weeks, probably heading into the election, really. Because this lines up pretty well. Because this is at a spot that historically it's bounced pretty much every single time. Maybe this time's different. I'm not saying it could be. It absolutely could be. But again, all we have is historical data. Now Tesla, same idea. It went from, at least on the daily in this case, right? It went from the second line of being oversold to now pretty much arguably almost the final, like the true extreme levels of being overbought within one day. But this TSLQ I just showed you also lines up pretty well with the potential, I say the word potential here, rejection at about this kind of 260s-ish range, which is that trend line that I just talked about, right? So it lines up pretty well. Now, obviously, maybe this time is different. It absolutely could be. But if history is any, I got like an eyelash in my eye. If history is any judge or indicator, this is where things will start getting very spicy. This is where, again, if the bears were to strike, this should be, in theory, where it is, right? So watch for that. And that's, I would say, probably the major bearish things. I guess the only other bearish things to talk about is SPY, for instance. Like SPY is right out of major support, bring out the 21 EMA. It's bouncing off the 21 EMA. But if SPY ever essentially loses 576, the market can potentially get a bit of a flush moving forward, right? Which potentially can happen leading into the elections because there is a lot of calls for VIX, 1.2 million, 200K, 500K, 200K, 120K, including, of course, a 450 puts. But a lot of calls, including this 1.2 million that came in today. So maybe some volatility will come in as we get closer and closer to the elections. Who knows? But, watch for this on SPY, which in theory can affect Tesla. Now let's go to the bullish side. I think the bears got enough of that. Let's talk about the bullish side. Well, the bulls obviously, I think they won today. There's no question about that. But let's talk about what could this mean moving forward. Is Tesla now ready to go bullish, or what's going on? Is the stock, that's it? Is it over? Is the bottom in guaranteed, or is there still a risk of the bottom? I still think there's a risk. And I'll tell you what I need to see for that risk. Not necessarily to be fully gone, but substantially eliminated. And this is the exact same thing I was saying back when we were right here. And this is the exact same thing I was saying back over here, right? Tesla needs to do essentially the opposite of what I just said the bears need to do. Number one, they need to break above this trend line and essentially turn it back into support. Number one, right? Number two, and probably the most important one in my opinion, it needs a break of structure, ideally above 270. Honestly, even above 265 is already pretty good, but ideally above 270. And in my opinion, if Tesla can ever breach above 270 and ideally close above 270, a daily candle, that is going to be very, very bullish. And what do I mean by that? Does that mean that Tesla just rockets from here and pretty much goes straight from 270 to $400 per share? Absolutely not. What that means to me is the fact that despite it will have a short-term rally, probably up to at least 280, best case scenario 300. What that means to me, if it does break and especially close above 270, is the structure now gets very, very strong on the bullish side for Tesla. And that to me convinces me at least that any dips that of course will come, nothing goes up in a straight line, but any dips that do essentially end up coming after that, I think are much more convincing of a buy in the sense that it substantially reduces the chance that Tesla will see 190 or 180 or 170 or any of those levels, right? It very, very, very much reduces that chance that Tesla will go much, much lower. in my opinion, if we break and close above 270, because the structure does change back to being bullish. So essentially dips become just more viable. That's really all it comes down to, right? It just has more confidence, which is going to be a phenomenal sign. But obviously that still needs to be done. So those are probably the main things I'm looking at moving forward for Tesla. Now for the downside targets, if Tesla does get a rejection here, where can it go potentially, right? How far down could it potentially go? The first level I'll be looking for personally is pretty much 250. I think 250 will be the major first level I'll be looking for. That is, of course, going to be a major resistance and support from before, and I would expect no different from now. Below 250, I would expect about the mid 240s, and below mid 240s, I would expect Tesla to go back down somewhere to about the mid 230s. Now, another thing that we have, of course, on the bullish aspect is we have an island reversal pattern, right? So we have a massive gap down and then we had a massive gap up, and we left this essentially massive gap on both ends now. And what do we leave down here? Essentially an island of candles. That's why it's called an island reversal. In this case, it's a bullish one, of course. For this pattern to continue holding, Tesla pretty much, ideally, I don't want to ever really lose 230s. Like if I don't want to see Tesla lose like 232, 233, even 230, like I don't want to lose that level pretty much ever again, ideally. Maybe even as low as 225. But ideally, I never want to see it below 230s ever again. If it can never go below 230s ever again, and that just happens to be what it actually does, that's going to be very bullish. This island reversal pattern will just pretty much continue to be, remain intact. And I think Tesla will have a phenomenal rally for the next several months to years even, right? So this could be a really, really powerful bullish reversal pattern. But as of right now, we need more confirmation in the sense that we need to see this 270 break to really get true bullish reversals in. Because as of right now, with this move, I know people are going to be upset, but this can still be a very large bull trap. I'm sorry, but it can be. It absolutely can be. These levels have to break. Like it's extremely crucial that these levels break. And then I think, eventually when it does pull back, those dips will be substantially more powerful in a bullish way, right? That's just the way I'm looking at it right now. So, I mean, that's kind of all I got right now, I think. Again, major levels to the downside, 250, 245, and pretty much the 230s. Upside, pretty much any, like 265 and 270. Those have to break. Those need to break 100%. Tesla's selling off a little bit after hours, but I mean, this could be just some profit taking. You never know. I do expect Tesla to get some profit taking in. I actually did enter puts for the first time in a very long time. Extremely light position, literally like 0.5% of my account. I just want to see what happens tomorrow. I want to see if profit taking happens tomorrow or not. And that's pretty much the only reason I'm in them. And I will probably exit them honestly at 250. I'm not planning to hold them for much longer than that at all. But the thing that's interesting that I just kind of find funny is Tesla, not a single 1 hour candle today was red. Every single 1 hour candle was green. And on top of that, the RSI pretty much was broken. Despite Tesla going up substantially, and as it continued going up, so for instance, you can see RSI was already at these levels back when Tesla was like at 250. Tesla's at 260, and the RSI looks like it pretty much just went sideways. It's almost as if it's broken. It's like it doesn't even have levels that it can go much higher than this. Like it's so crazy up here that like this is unironically, I think the highest level that the RSI might have ever been at in Tesla's history. I think it actually might be, honestly, like unironically. Okay, maybe it's not. Actually, it might be. I can't zoom out enough to like see it properly. But this is definitely one of, if not the highest level, the 1 hour RSI has ever been in the history of the stock. Top 3 for sure, which is just really funny, I think, honestly. But yeah, anyway, so watch for those levels, watch for this massive W for the Tesla bulls. Obviously, my main account, I did go in very light. I had cash secured puts, which are obviously pretty much not worth anything anymore. So at least I made money on that. But like I said, I do have that short term. I do have that long-term account that I am holding Tesla shares. That's like 60% of the account. That, of course, I'm very happy with. Haven't touched it at all. Don't plan on touching it at all. Maybe I'll consider selling some covered calls here for like a few months out. Honestly, I might. But I want to see how it reacts here first before I make any decisions, because that's my like super safe, like do not touch accounts, which obviously is very happy today. But that's all I got to say. That's all we have. So let's see what happens moving forward. Very interesting day. Very, very, very crazy day. And yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.